So, Mercury in Capricorn, what does it mean to have your planet of communication and thinking in the sign ruled by Saturn, the Earth sign? Well, it means that you're going to have a lot of practical knowledge. You're going to want to use your knowledge and communication in the most practical way as possible. You're not one that's much for fantasy or imagination. You're someone that really relies on realism and you get your ideas and form your way of thinking based on what you see, based on the reality of things. You're not just gonna, make things up as you go along. You're definitely a planner, and you like to have a schedule and a routine of some sorts to base your day off of or base a plan off of. You really don't like to fly by the seat of your pants that much. And I would also say that your communication is very straightforward. It's very simple, and you're not somebody who's gonna put hidden messages behind your words. What other people hear is pretty much what you mean, and you're always gonna say what you mean and mean what you say. Otherwise, you really wouldn't say it. Um, you have a way of thinking and just learning that is very disciplined. Your way of thinking is very realistic, and it's very much based in, um, hard evidence, logic. You're pretty much only going to believe something if you can see it or if you find some kind of tangible proof for it existing. And you're not really somebody who likes to question um, structures. You don't really try to challenge ways of thinking. If it works for you, if it has worked for you in the past, and it's proven to be reliable and a good resource for you, then you don't really see why you should change it. Yeah, Mercury in Capricorn way of thinking and speaking is just all very structured and it's all very organized. Because you're ruled by Saturn, you're gonna really guard your words very closely, guard your thoughts, and be very strict about how you speak and what you say and how you say it. And I can also see you guys really thinking long and hard first and foremost before, expressing yourself, expressing the ideas that come to your head. You're not just somebody who's gonna blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind. You're really gonna think about it first and make sure it's what you mean and make sure that it's backed up by evidence and make sure that it's, not gonna get you in trouble or make you look dumb. Oh, Mercury in Capricorn would hate to look dumb. That's probably one of their biggest fears is to appear not as knowledgeable as they know they are. These people have a really strong and vigilant filter. So everything that they say or everything that they're able to communicate with you, it's something, that it's something that they've been thinking about for a long time. Every idea that comes to their head has to go through this process of being sorted out. It has to pass certain criteria before they really express it. So Mercury in Capricorn can really be a little bit frustrating. It can be difficult because they can find it hard to really express themselves authentically and passionately, spontaneously, because they have such a strong filter and they have a lot of fear surrounding how it's going to look like when they express themselves. And just a lot of fear-based thinking, I think, is central to a Mercury in Capricorn's way of thinking and communicating. Mercury in Capricorn is really gonna hate to waste their time, talking about certain topics that, either just don't interest them or they feel like it's a waste of time or they think that why are we talking about this? There's really no point in having this discussion at all. Just for whatever reason, they might, like I said, they're very guarded with what they talk about, and so they're very guarded in how they speak and what kind of words they're expressing to you. So they might deliberately try to avoid certain topics or talking about certain things that, make them uncomfortable or they feel like it's not appropriate. Considering if something is, appropriate or not is such a Mercury and Capricorn thing. If a joke or a conversation is too crude or it's just not going to make them look good when they're talking about it or they know that somebody heard them talking about it, it's really something that they're going to stray away from. And so, they kind of label that area or that subject as, inappropriate. And so it's something that they're going to shy away from. They're going to be shy about talking about those types of things, and they're going to really have that filter on and make sure that they're always having their best foot forward, and not making a fool of themselves, making themselves look dumb or anything. And this placement can really make a person, apprehensive and have their doubts. Their minds can be full of doubts and doubtful thinking, always second guessing themselves. They tend to have a glass half empty type of thinking. They are a little bit pessimistic and tend to expect the worst. But then this also makes them very good at preparing for situations that usually other people will fail to see, or other people don't really see it coming because they're so like idealistic, or they're so much more focused on getting a positive outcome than really like preparing themselves mentally or emotionally about what negative outcomes could possibly happen. And a Mercury in Capricorn is there to handle that. They're the ones who will automatically go straight to the worst possible case scenario. And so this can be a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it just limits them so much, and it prevents them from taking risks. It prevents them from seeing just the bright side of things and really hoping for the best. And they're not the type of people who will enter into something or go against the plan that they've laid out and hope that something good will come out of it. They're really gonna like think about all types of possible situations that could come out of it. Mercury in Capricorn can also make somebody a little bit too hard on themselves when it comes to like if they're having a conversation with somebody and they kind of mess up, or they say something that they didn't mean or they shouldn't have said, or it offends the other person, or it just makes them look a certain way. Like after that conversation is had, Mercury in Capricorn will probably like really like internally just beat themselves up like so much for it. They can be like really hard on themselves in that way, and just one mistake that they make and in a conversation or in expressing themselves like the wrong way, they have a hard time admitting their weaknesses and their faults. And so they can be just way too hard on themselves when it comes to little slips here and there in their conversation. And a Mercury in Capricorn is really going to do best in a learning environment that is very structured and very planned and has like a schedule. They really can't stand teachers or learning environments that are very spontaneous and that allow for freedom of thinking or creativity. That's really not their strong suit, because they prefer to learn within the context or the confines of rules. They get a little bit nervous when they're allowed to like think freely or make up their own conclusions. I think that they're going to do well in subjects that have just a right or wrong answer, and that's doesn't have answers that are like up for interpretation, or answers that'll be like different from one person to the next. And I also think the best way to communicate with them is to be very straightforward and to be honest with them. Giving wishy-washy answers or giving unclear answers that they really don't like being left in the dark, or they have like this fear of the unknown, of just not being sure, and the possible outcome just not being clear for them. They want to know that the outcome is what is expected and what they're preparing for. These people will really do well in positions where they can control, or where they can direct, or be in some kind of high position, some kind of authority position. They're good at allocating duties to people, people that they're working with or who they need to manage. And because they are very structured, and they just have a natural authority in the way that they speak. So people really sit up and pay attention and make sure that they're on their best behavior when they're speaking to a Mercury in Capricorn, because it's like they know that like they're watching what they're saying very closely and really paying attention, and they kind of have this presence or like this vibe when you're around them of like you're speaking to like your boss or a teacher or something, some kind of authority figure. They just have that way of speaking that makes you feel like you have to be at your best. You have to like show your best side and be professional. Mercury in Capricorn communication is very professional, and it's just very like straight-laced, very sophisticated. They speak very eloquently and express themselves very clearly and in a way that just really gets their thoughts and ideas across in the most efficient and polite way. I feel like Mercury in Capricorn will really want to appear polite. They're going to want to appear knowledgeable, like they actually know what they're talking about, and that you don't have to second guess them and you're not going to doubt them. They do have a way of speaking and communicating that really makes you want to trust them because they're so sure when they speak and they're so sure of themselves when they're talking to you. It just really makes you want to trust them and easily believe what they're saying. And I also think that this placement, they take their time when they're trying to learn something. They don't like to, like I said, they don't want to waste their time ever, whether they're talking to someone or expressing themselves or learning something new. They're not going to jump into learning subjects that they don't believe that they can conquer or that they can't really, they don't believe that they can grasp it fully. So if they ever find themselves, having to learn something new, they're going to go at it at their own pace. They're going to be very slow and deliberate about it. And they're going to make sure that they can cover all the bases. First and foremost, like laying down the foundation. Like I said, they're super structured in their way of thinking. And this also goes into their way of learning too. So they're going to want to start slow, start with the basics and work their way up to the top. These people will really work hard when it comes to learning new things. They don't give up very easily. Remember that they're that hardworking, mountain climbing goat. Whatever it is that they set out to do, they go hard at it and they don't like to give up. Whenever they come across a stumbling block or some kind of obstacle, they're going to try to get over it, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for them. They're going to struggle with it just the same as everyone else, but these people have a way of going around those obstacles, those learning obstacles, in a very disciplined manner. They just don't ever give up. They push through it and they don't stop until they really get it down, until they become professionals at it, until they're able to teach it almost. And I also think that this placement, these people won't be satisfied with just being beginners at something. They're going to want to be at the top. They're going to want to be advanced at it. And that's what's such a good strength of this Mercury placement, is that like they do really work hard at learning something that they want to learn or that they have to learn. And like I said, like they don't stop until they become professionals at it. They're going to want to learn as much as they possibly can about this thing, about what it is that they're learning. They're going to try to go above and beyond what is expected of them. And they know that when they reach the top, they'll be able to have this sense of pride in that achievement and being recognized as like a leader in that field. Possibly they're going to want to eventually reach that level, like reach that position where they know so much about something and are so such an expert at it that other people will want to come to them for knowledge. That pride is going to get them the recognition that they really want in life. And this kind of goes along with what I was saying about when you speak to them, you always get the sense that they know exactly what they're talking about, and they're going to make sure that you believe that they know what they're talking about and that you don't have to question it. They just have this way of making you trust them, trust what they're saying, because they're so knowledgeable about what it is that you came to ask them about. So yeah, whatever they set out to learn, they start slow and then they build up, and they have the stamina, the endurance to get to the top until they become an absolute expert at it. So I think that's about it for Mercury and Capricorn today. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you found it informative. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for another Mercury sign.